Hello and welcome to Gettin Air. My name is Terry Green, and this is the eCampus Ontario radio show on Voice Ed Radio. We use this space and time to connect with those working in open and technology-enabled learning in the Ontario post-secondary education world. And the idea is to allow people to get some airtime to share what they're up to. Today we have on a technicality because she is in Ontario and she's in post-secondary, so you count as a
pew, pew, pew.
guest. We have Angela Gunder. Welcome.
Hello. We're the fireworks, the Canadian fireworks that I was expecting for my auspicious.
Oh, they didn't go off?
Here No, they didn't.
Oh,
maybe because it's daytime.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, totally fine.
We installed a giant tower in Toronto for you. Just before you came.
Oh, tell me more about this tower. The CN Tower, is that it?
Yeah, that's the one. It's well, we put it up in the 70s.
My two favorite letters in the alphabet.
Yeah.
Before I was born.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, well, awesome. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm even more excited to be joining you from the Contact North Online Learning Conference.
Yeah, we're at the conference right now.
So far. Literally at it right now. We had the first opening plenary this very morning, and it was awesome. I have to say that I am lucky enough to be at an institution that has funding to send me and my colleagues to conferences, and they really value the work that happens and the networking that happens at these places.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've seen a lot of different formats for conferences, and this morning, hands down, one of my favorite opening sessions of all time. No hyperbole, like literally one of my favorites.
Why is that?
So they had all of their track chairs get up and in like 5 minutes or less, give a pitch for their entire track. And they sort of pitted them against each other in a Hunger Games style of advertisement of their tracks. And they left with sort of like driving questions for the entire track that people were encouraged to answer as they went to the sessions. So it made me think, as one who's been lucky enough to be a conference chair before and be involved with conference planning, it had me thinking about, like, what if all track chairs were picked that way? Like, if you had to pick a tribute to go out there for your track, who would you pick to be your person to kind of like speak that truth and get people out there? It was really cool. It was really, really cool.
And then maybe we could start to dress like the people in the capital city and in the Hunger Games, and that'll be extra fun.
And I want some really cool outfits.
Yeah.
I want somebody to be wearing a dress that's on fire. Maybe not myself, but maybe you.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to sign up for that. Okay.
We jumped ahead a little too quickly, though, because we never said which institution it was that can afford to send us this.
So I am the Director of Instructional Design and Curriculum Development at the Office of Digital Learning at the University of Arizona. And that's a long-winded title for I'm a person who gets to mentor, support, find resources, do slave labor for an amazing team that builds out the online courses for the University of Arizona. So it's a super cool job, and I work with the best people in the world.
Amazing. In your Twitter handle, you say you are the Director of Fancy for the Office of Digital.
I wear a monocle and a small top hat at all times. And I have a bespoke mustache. I don't know. I'm going to work on a bespoke mustache. I said that and I was like, you know what? I shouldn't lie to the people. So I don't have one, but I will work on it.
Wonderful.
Squad goals.
Excellent. Okay. Before we go any farther, also, the reason I was able to connect with you is through our mutual friend, John Stewart at the University of Oklahoma. So here's my question. How awesome is he?
John's pretty amazing. I'm trying to think of like one succinct story about John, and there are too many. But if you want to get the origin story for why I know John and his frequent partner in crime, Keegan Long Wheeler, it's actually through Ben Scragg. And I know Ben Scragg by planning an exploratory installation at the Online Learning Consortium's old conference. It used to be Emerging Technology for Online
Hmm.
Learning. So Ben and I got to work together with another partner in crime, Jessica Knott, who's actually my research partner, my Sherpa, my life coach in many many things. So all origin stories begin with Jessica L. Knott. If you want to know
Perfect.
why I know anybody cool, why I do anything cool, talk to Jess.
She's subject zero.
She is. That should be her. That should be on her Twitter description of herself.
So in looking at your website, your blog, you mentioned somewhere that you took a circuitous route to instructional design or your current role. What's that circuitous route?
So it's funny you mentioned it. I was talking to somebody that I met this morning, and she was saying that she started out in architecture and then ended up, she sort of fell into instructional design and said it as if it was a novel sort of thing. And not only did, so my boss and also my sister from another Mr. Melody Buckner, she started out as an architecture major, did just about every job under the sun, including working as an animator for a really long time and doing all sorts of cool things. But she also fell into instructional design and now is the accidental dean. She's the accidental director of our huge team, and it had me thinking about how many of us, when we started within that intersection of education, particularly higher education and technology, we didn't necessarily know that instructional design was a
Hmm.
thing. For some on the slightly younger set, there started to emerge degree programs within the realm. But for the most part, it was folks that were really interested in getting closer to teaching and learning and really thinking about the unique affordances of technology that were expanding the reach of education, making education more equitable, more accessible. And for me, that was really the way it went. I went to college thinking that I was going to be a
Hmm.
geneticist, and due to an advising error and a dean that was unwilling to change her stance on what courses I had to take, I switched from pre med to computer
Wow.
science. And I have always loved art. I've always been an artist. So I decided to minor in studio art in addition to computer science. And that got me into a career as a webmaster for higher education. I did that for 15 years. And the entire time that I was doing it, I was meeting with faculty who were like, oh, Angela's nice and she seems to know a lot about tech. Maybe if I put her in my class, then she can help me set things up. And this was right around the time that blended learning was really starting to kick off at the institutions that
Hmm.
I was at. And for me, I was just, I'm such a nerd and I want to learn everything about everything. So, faculty that were teaching subjects that I had not even wrapped my mind around what they consisted of, what their discipline entailed, I was getting this like insider glimpse into everything that they were doing and all of the scholarship around those fields and making connections to the things that I had learned. So I was an accidental instructional designer. That term is not a new term, but it absolutely fits for what happened to me. And I'm trying to think, 2010, I said, I don't want to be an accidental instructional designer anymore. I don't want to be a back alley instructional designer. I just want to be an instructional designer. Like that's just what I want to do. So I got my master's in ed tech and ended up working at the institution that I started my career out at as a web designer. I went back to them and worked at Northern Virginia
Oh,
Community
cool.
College as an instructional designer with people that I had known for over a decade, but in a different capacity, and it felt like a homecoming. Going back there and working for a shop that was serving over 20,000
Wow.
students all over the globe. So it was super awesome, and I would not be able to do any of the work that I do right now for the University of Arizona had it not been again that very circuitous journey, feeling like I was on the island of misfit toys quite a lot, not really knowing what the official title or label was for what I
Hmm.
was doing, but just knowing that I wanted to work with really good people and I wanted to serve learners, particularly those that had been told, hey, there's no place for you within higher education, or learners where they were in college or they were at university, but that was their only shot at getting a degree. And if it didn't work for them in that instance, then they wouldn't continue with their education. I mean, what more reason do we have to dedicate everything that we have to folks that literally it's their
Yeah.
last chance, or they don't have
I
anything
haven't actually
else?
thought much about the privilege I had of not being able to figure out what I wanted to do for so long, and switching and switching and switching. So that's a huge privilege.
Yeah, that's a good reframing. So thinking about it as a privilege, I think is important for many of us that are practitioners and researchers right now. But also, what if our work was moving everybody towards a system where that was
Hmm.
their right? I talked to Ryan Straight recently on his podcast about this crazy notion that we would all know what we were going to do when we grew up as an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, and then lock that in. I mean, that's nuts. And there's just so much in the world that we don't know at that point, and we don't know what the world's going to be by the time we have to lock into whatever our choice is. And now it's less stigmatized for people to be
Hmm.
career switchers. I mean, I think that um, term carries some negative weight, and that's changing in kind of an ageist way, but maybe we can poke at it a little bit with our work. But move us to this place where, yeah, you don't have to know what you're going to be when you. I mean, like, I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I don't know what that's going to be,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. And I want everybody to feel like they have that right. And a lot of that has to do with all of the insecurity that people might have around finance, and just the basic things that you need in order to be able to engage with your education. So looking at like food insecurity, looking at um, all of the life and wellness of our students being taken care of so that they can enter the classroom with an open mind and ready to connect the things that they're learning in the classroom to the things that they either want to do or that they are already doing in the real world. Our students are, the average
Hmm.
age is 31. Our oldest student is
Oh, wow.
92 years old. He is working on a bachelor's of history from the
Cool.
retirement home that he's in, and he's a World
Amazing.
War II veteran that is on his GI Bill that he had from way back in the day. I want, the whole point is that regardless of where you are in the life cycle, if you have these other um, extenuating circumstances that prevent you from concentrating and focusing on what you want to get out of your educational experience, that's
Hmm.
a problem.
Very cool. We are blasting through our 30 minutes very quickly. So I want to ask you about a very important thing. What is the Squad Goals Network?
So I'm trying to think of when this all started. I think it was earlier in 2018, maybe end of 2017. A group of us who had been working on conferences and on professional development and some research together. We co-opted Squad Goals Network as a hashtag,
Hmm.
and started labeling all of our connections that we had to the many, many, many people who were helping us do what we needed to do for our day jobs and just for our academic and personal goals as part of this group. And we didn't want it to present or feel like a club or a clique. We wanted it to be all encompassing of the many, many stars in our proverbial constellation. And in, I want to say, I'm a bad historian, but I'm interested in the history of groups and networks. So I know that John Stewart's probably cringing somewhere at my my mapping out this timeline. But basically, we all decided that we wanted to document all of the good that had come out of our connections as a group, and we decided to create a couple of things. one of which was a framework that talked about the relationship between the people that you meet at conferences, how you can move from the conference and not just go back to your institution and do nothing and feel overwhelmed by the work that's there, but actually engage the people that you met at the conference as your future partners in crime, and then do work together and pick meaningful topics that you both share. So if you need publications for promotion and tenure, do that. If you are struggling with some sort of event or tech pilot or initiative, find people that are struggling with the same questions, and maybe you're at a different point on the life cycle of that journey, and work with them. And then whatever you discover, so sort of closing that loop of the framework, you bring back to the conference in future years, either as a presenter or as a volunteer or as somebody that finds more people to connect over that topic. We also created a website. And the website serves as a place for us to collect stories. We're really big on storytelling. We think it's the engine for empathy. We think it's the way that we are able to iterate and to get away from the notion that we have to do things alone, that failure is bad. By hearing other people's stories, it just demystifies all of that. It makes our lives much, much easier. So we collect the stories of people on the website who have experienced great benefits from personal learning networks. And it's become such a fabulous tool for us to really figure out, okay, who are the people that are just our total rock stars, and who are the rock stars of our rock stars, right? So we might have shared people in common, but like once you form and forge a connection, like who are all the people that that new person is bringing in? So it's an exciting time to map all of the resources and just the amazing humans that are out there that can help us. Because on the flip side, the other piece of this narrative is that for a lot of us, budgets are being cut. There are less jobs to do a lot more work. We have way more learners than we've probably ever had before that are coming in with very, very unique goals. And we have a lot of formidable challenges that we're fighting, and we're doing this across the globe. I mean, everybody is struggling with these same big ubiquitous challenges, but then contextualized in unique ways for their own institutions. So focusing our time and our effort on mapping all of the resources that we have in front of us and figuring out how we can do more with less. This is really our contribution to that greater need and that greater cause.
That sounds pretty cool. I'm glad I get to be a little bit of a part of it.
You're more than a little bit of a part of it.
So if someone's listening and they think this sounds great, but they're worried that they're not a rock star or something, even though they probably are, what would you say to them to get them involved with Squad Goals Network?
I would first say false. I would secondly say you're already in it just by thinking that you want to be in it, you're Perfect. In it. And that was from Ryan Straight. There's no formal process. If you want to link up to awesome humans, that's as simple as it is. And for myself personally, I've derived a lot of benefit from academic uses of Twitter, professional uses of Twitter. I think that it's one of those tools that I didn't really get it and understand it for myself until I was using it with intentionality. And it's as simple as finding somebody on social media and connecting with them. We spend a lot of time talking too about personal preferences for how folks connect. So if you're a person that you're like, oh, I'm an introvert, or I don't really love Twitter, that's cool. There are plenty of other ways that you can link up to not only this cause, but other networks. There was an interesting plenary pitch this morning from Jill Holiday, and she asked people to think about the sessions that they attend in terms of going to things that really matter to the individual, to the people that they serve, and to their organization. And I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about networking too. So if you had to use your time at a conference or even your time with social media thinking about that framework, how would that change what you went to? How would that change who you talk to? And really and truly, like if you attend a conference and you went in thinking, oh my gosh, I have to find all the people that are going to help me do all the things that I need to do for the upcoming year, how would that change how you move through a conference? Would you find people in different ways? Would you talk to people in different ways? And again, like that's kind of what we're poking at. Like there's not one path, there's not one type of connection, but we do spend a lot of money and spend a lot of time going to big things like
Mhm.
conferences. So recontextualizing it in a way of there are pools of resources here, and I want to find those resources and help to amplify my work. I mean, that's there's no better thing than that. So
So it's if someone's interested in finding out more, it's simply squadgoalsnetwork.com to check it out.
see,
And
yes.
what would you say they should do to, I know they're part of it, even if as soon as they think of it, but what should they do to let us know that they want to be involved?
So quick and easy action items. One, if you go to squadgoalsnetwork.com, there's a contact button that you can reach out to us and talk about the ways that you would like to participate. The easiest way, and you don't even have to contact us to do it, is to share your story. And there's an open form on the website that you can do that. But in addition to that, if you reach out and contact us, we have a lot of different ways that we're trying to push out content. So if you're a blogger or if you're a podcaster, we actually syndicate feeds
Hmm.
from other sites and we use them to amplify voices. So you can actually talk to us and we'll syndicate your feed if it's related to digital learning, really the intersection of everything that you're talking about on this
Very cool.
podcast. Another great way is that you can find us on Twitter. So on Twitter, our handle is Squad Goals Network, but minus any vowels because we were limited to how many characters we could use, but you can also just do hashtag Squad Goals Network and reach out to us. And one of the really cool things that we're doing, because managing something like this has to have a shared a
Hmm.
distributed leadership model, we're having some of the core founding members each take turns with a social media takeover, where for a month they agree to tweet out and talk to people on that one handle. I was able to do September. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
so much fun. I did two reflections around that too, about all the cool people that I got to meet, including you. You were one of my my people that I got to meet anew in September, and then Ryan Straight is doing this month. So in a future month, with your social media prowess, I would love to have a Terry Green social media takeover a la Squad Goals. I think that that would be of
I
epic
would love to try.
awesomeness.
And of course, this month it's Squad Ghouls Network when you go to Squad Goals Network because it's October.
And there's a theme picked by every takeover person, and Ryan picked fear. So how do we face our fears in the classroom? How do we face our fears around online learning? There's a lot to unpack in there, but yeah,
That's great.
we love a good theme.
What was your theme?
My theme was exploring the tide pools around us. So thinking
Um,
about how when you look at your challenges, it's like a vast ocean and it's overwhelming to think about cataloging and exploring the ocean. But if you recontextualize that as like, who's my network? Like, what's my small network? And like, what's there? It's sort of like exploring a tide pool. It's a little mini version of the larger ocean. And you have all those same truths, but they're for you in a manageable way. So I went in with that focus for the month, and I scheduled a lot of reflections around thoughts that I had been kicking around, that notion of tide pools and oceans. And what I ended up finding out, and I recorded a reflection about this, which is on the Squad Goals Network website, was that it felt a lot like traveling from campfire to campfire.
mhm.
That you could sit around a fire, talk to the people that were around there, and then when you were good, you could get up and walk to another campfire. And sometimes people come with you when you go to another campfire. They'll travel with you, or you'll travel with some other group. But you have the propensity to go back to any of the fires that you had previously explored. You have the ability to pull away and just reflect and kind of be on your own too. But it's this sort of migratory path. And I think honoring that path is really important. Sometimes we're just like, oh, I don't know how comfortable I feel walking up to another group that I don't really know. And also this other fascinating phenomena of I don't know how to leave a group that I'm in
Yeah.
without offending them. And that was an interesting exploration that I got to dig into in September, but also that I'm really, really excited to continue to explore. It was a super rewarding month, I have to
What a
say.
cool analogy or metaphor you use, the tide pools. I love it.
Thank you.
Uh, no problem. We have very few minutes left. And I don't remember if we actually explicitly stated which conference you're at.
I did.
But let's
I,
chat.
I
Did you?
did. I said
Oh,
so.
good.
Contact North Online Learning Conference in Toronto,
Right.
October 16th through 18th. I hope I got that
Yeah.
correctly.
And it's the hashtag, if you're looking on Twitter, I think is Global Summit 18.
Yes. And I've
Yeah.
been tweeting fast and furiously. You can find me at Angela Gunder, and I will do my best to document everything that I'm seeing at the conference. Another thing that we added in our office is that our team, every time we go to a conference, we're doing reflections that we're sharing out on our website, which is odl.arizona.edu. And I'll be posting a reflection from the sessions that I've attended along with my colleagues, Melody Buckner and Joshua Steele. So if you're missing it in person, you'll get some recaps from us for sure, both live and then also in the form of a consolidated post.
Wonderful. So right now you're halfway through the first day. What session are you most excited about seeing coming up?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I was talking about intentionality before, like if I went into the conference with that framing that Jill Holiday talked about. So I'm here
Mm-hmm.
to just binge. I shouldn't say binge, like
Yeah.
feast. That's a better analogy. On everything related to open pedagogy, and then also
Mm-hmm.
separately related to really like mixed reality. So anything under that virtual reality, augmented reality umbrella. And there are a ton of sessions that are coming up on both of those things, particularly open pedagogy. And I'm super excited to hear a lot of the stories from folks in Canada and beyond, with all of the
Mm-hmm.
amazing work that they're doing and just, leading and paving the way for many of us that are trying to make sure that we're keeping education equitable and accessible. So I'm super jazzed about that.
Awesome. I know Sean Michael Morris from Digital Pedagogy Lab has a session at some point. I think that one would be right up your alley if
Woo
you don't have that
woo!
on your list.
I'm a big fan, so yeah. We've had some trouble with the program book today in terms of there being again a lot of things at the buffet. So having three people here helps us
Oh,
strategize
yeah.
and divide and conquer. But if folks have recommendations, hit me up on Twitter. Actually, I think it'll be impossible for them to do this depending on when this podcast goes out. So I'm sorry, virtual
Yeah, yeah.
audience. That's a cruel joke that I just shared.
Well, maybe in the next few days a time machine will be invented, so it's all good.
You're working on that. I'm really happy.
Someone's probably wildly working on that at this point, right?
It's fair for you to keep it a secret, Terry, that you've been working on a time machine.
I just now started working on it. It's not done yet.
Okay,
So
I'm confident in
we
your
are
abilities.
already out of time. I want to thank you so much for taking time out from your conference. You came all the way to Toronto to talk to someone 2 hours farther into Ontario. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I am twirling my fictional mustache that I'm working on.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good time.
You too. Bye.